In every confrontation, people rarely lose because they are wrong. They lose because they lose themselves at the very moment they most needed to stand firm. One heartbeat pulled by emotion, one rushed breath, one flicker in the eyes, and all reasoning, truth, and effort collapse before they even realize what happened. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. Power does not belong to the loudest voice. It belongs to the one who cannot be shaken. And if you've ever walked into an argument and walked out thinking, "I should have done better," then this video is made for you. Today, we are going to dissect the secret Machiavelli reserved for those who seek victory not by luck, but by absolute control. You will understand why calmness is the most dangerous form of strength, why an unshakable presence can alter an entire room, and why mastering yourself means mastering every outcome. If you are ready to become the person who cannot be swayed, then keep watching, because this journey will change the way you face the world. Number 1. Why do people lose in confrontation? In any confrontation, whether it's a workplace debate, a family conflict, or those tense, razor-sharp moments in life, people rarely lose due to lack of logic. In reality, most defeats stem from a deeper, more subtle, and criminally underestimated cause: the inability to maintain emotional control. Picture this familiar scenario. Someone walks into a debate fully prepared. They have the data, the evidence, the clear arguments, and have planned 3 steps ahead. But the moment pressure hits, just one personal jab or a single unexpected question, everything falls apart in the span of a few breaths. Their voice trembles, rising half a tone. Their hands fidget unconsciously on the table. Their gaze loses direction, drifting between their opponent and empty space. Just a few seconds of this, and the audience forms a conclusion. This person isn't steady. This person is afraid. What's striking is that this collapse has nothing to do with whether the person is right. The truth could be entirely on their side. But in the real world, people don't just listen with their ears, they listen with their eyes. A strong argument can be defeated by a weak facial expression. Sharp truth can be overshadowed by a shallow, shaky breath. Machiavelli saw this hundreds of years ago. He observed rulers, commanders, leaders, and recognized a brutally honest truth. Power does not belong to those who are right. Power belongs to those who remain standing. People trust stability more than they trust truth. A confident person is perceived as competent. A panicked person is perceived as unreliable, even if they are speaking the absolute truth. In moments of confrontation, you are not judged by your essence. You are judged by your display. So what truly happens? When tension rises, the body activates the fight-or-flight mechanism. The brain interprets confrontation as a threat to survival. Heart rate spikes, breathing shortens, and the rational part of your mind, the prefrontal cortex, temporarily shuts down to make way for instinct. You stop speaking from intelligence and start speaking from self-defense. And instinct is clumsy. It overreacts. It broadcasts signals of weakness you never intended to show. The frightening part? These signs unfold within seconds, completely outside your awareness. And the other person, even if they aren't an expert, detects them effortlessly. Humans evolved to read emotional cues from others: a slightly quicker blink, an awkward movement of the hand, a subtle shift in breathing. Each is a clue to the person in front of you. Thus, in confrontation, the true determinant of victory is not content. It is state. Not whether you are right, but whether you stand firm. Not what you say, but but how you look while saying it. The paradox of every argument lies here. Those who are right often lose precisely because they care too much about being right, forgetting that confrontation is not a battle of logic, but a battle of emotion beneath the surface. If you cannot command yourself, you cannot command the moment. And that is where every downfall begins. Number 2, the crucial truth. People trust presence more than words. There is one thing most people misunderstand about confrontation. They believe that saying the right thing is enough. But under pressure, words make up only a small fraction of persuasion. What truly determines whether you win or lose is how you appear, how you stand, how you breathe, how you control your pace, and how you look at the person in front of you. In conflict, the human brain does not operate the way it does in calm conditions. When the atmosphere heats up, the nervous system switches into rapid scan mode. It does not dissect every word. It reads nonverbal signals. These signals, whether you intend them or not, expose your inner state. That is why people do not listen with their ears first. They listen with their eyes. If you speak the truth but your voice trembles, they doubt you. If you are correct but your gaze wanders, they lose trust. If you're logical but your breathing turns shallow, they assume you're hiding something. But when you remain calm, even under attack, people instantly assume you have a reason to be calm. This is the core of Machiavellian thinking. People are guided by appearances just as much as by truth. Not because humans are shallow, but because they evolved that way. In prehistoric times, reading someone's physical cues meant survival. A trembling, anxious, rapid-breathing person signaled danger. A steady, calm, unshaken figure signaled someone worth following. This pattern is carved into our nervous system through thousands of years, and it remains powerful to this day. Observe any debate. Two people, two different energies. One speaks fast, their eyes unsteady, hands constantly moving. The other speaks slowly, clearly, keeps their breath steady, their face untouched by emotion. The second person may be 50% wrong, maybe even completely wrong. But when you look at them, you lean toward their side. Not because of their argument, but because of their presence. Presence creates the feeling of certainty. Certainty creates the feeling of credibility. And humans, unconsciously, always abandon what feels unstable and move toward what feels safe. In this context, calmness becomes a weapon. A weapon that makes no sound, requires no raised voice, no rapid-fire rebuttals. It works silently yet powerfully. Simply by showing up with the solidity of a stone pillar, you've already earned points before the confrontation even starts. A familiar example. In job interviews, candidates often desperately try to answer perfectly. But employers don't just listen to content. They observe breathing patterns, eye contact, and how the candidate handles difficult questions. A candidate who calmly says, "Let me think for a moment," carries far more weight than someone who spills out a rushed answer just to fill silence. In team meetings, when tension rises, the person who keeps a steady voice is often viewed as the voice of reason, even before they say anything meaningful. Their calmness causes others to turn toward them. In personal relationships, arguments turn into battlefields when one person lets emotion take control. But if one person slows down, speaks softly, holds steady eye contact, the conflict instantly softens. Seeing that you're not escalating, the other naturally lowers their tone. Presence doesn't just shape how others perceive you. It shapes the entire direction of the confrontation. If you lose your calm, you push your opponent to escalate. If you stay calm, you force your opponent to recalibrate. And for that reason, in any confrontation, the first thing to prepare is not your content. The first thing is your presence. Once you master that steadiness, you're already one step ahead. Number 3, master your body to master your mind. When stepping into any confrontation, most people try to calm themselves down with thoughts. They tell themselves, stay calm. I need to stay calm. But seconds later, their heart pounds, their breath shortens, their voice shakes. Why? Because they're using the wrong method, trying to control emotion with thought, when emotion is controlled first by the body. The body is a survival alarm system. It reacts before you can think. When tension appears, your brain doesn't distinguish a debate from being chased by a tiger. It only knows you are being threatened. In an instant, the sympathetic nervous system switches on. Your heart accelerates, your breathing becomes shallow, your muscles tighten, heat is in your chest or neck, your hands become unstable. Even if your mouth says, I'm fine, your body broadcasts a completely different message. And the person in front of you senses it instinctively. Machiavelli understood that power is not something you create in the moment you speak. It is something you radiate through your presence. And that presence begins with the body. When you master your body, your breath, your stance, your voice, you are sending a direct signal to the brain. There is no danger. We are in control. The brain trusts the body more than it trusts words. So if you want a steady mind, start with a steady body. 1. Breathing, the switch that shuts off panic mode. Under pressure, breathing becomes fast, shallow, and trapped in the chest. This is a powerful signal telling the brain you are in danger. When that happens, the rational part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, powers down, giving control to the amygdala, the center of fear. This is why people say foolish things in arguments. Not because they are less intelligent, but because they lose access to their own intelligence. Change your breath, and you change the entire battle. Inhale through the nose, slow and deep. Exhale through the mouth, longer than the inhale. Breathe from the diaphragm, not the chest. In just 3-5 cycles, heart rate drops, the body softens, and the rational brain comes back online. Instantly, your thoughts sharpen, and so does your speech. 2. Posture, the foundation of calmness. Posture is an incredibly powerful form of body language. A person who stands firmly, shoulders relaxed, spine straight, hands steady, projects stability. Even if they feel nervous inside, the stable posture forces the brain to adjust accordingly. Conversely, closed posture, crossed arms, hunched back, shaking leg, fidgeting hands, tells the brain that you are in defense mode. Tense body, tense emotion, tense voice, tense arguments, and everything collapses more easily. The Machiavellian formula is simple: stable posture, stable state, stable perception in the eyes of others. That is the silent map of power. 3. Voice. Pace determines power. The voice is the fastest betrayal of your emotional state. When anxious, the voice often becomes higher-pitched, faster, uneven in breath, filled with unconscious fillers like interrupting the other person out of fear of being overwhelmed or forgetting your point. Just do the opposite, and you immediately reclaim control. Speak at 70% of your normal pace, lower your voice half a tone, keep your breath steady, and above all, embrace silence. Silence is a weapon. Calm people create silence. Anxious people fear silence. When you pause for just a few seconds, the other person feels compelled to fill the empty space. And the more they speak, the more control they lose, while you gain position. The body leads the mind. The mind leads the situation. And whoever controls the situation wins. Once the body stands firm, the mind follows on. And when the mind is steady, your words become sharp without raising your voice, persuasive without preaching. That is the foundation of becoming unshakable. Number 4, turn calmness into a lever of power. By now, you've seen that calmness is not just an inner state, it is a tactical advantage. But in reality, the power of calmness goes far beyond that. It doesn't just help you stay firm in confrontation, it reshapes the entire power structure of the situation, transforming you from a participant into the one who leads. Most confrontations follow the same pattern. One side escalates emotionally, and the other reacts by instinct. Emotions spread like fire through dry forest. The moment one person raises their voice, the other gets pulled into the escalation. The whole room turns into an emotional battleground, and whoever gets dragged more strongly is the one who loses. But there is one type of person who breaks this pattern entirely, the person who does not escalate. The one who keeps their breathing steady, their pace steady, their gaze steady. The one who stands in the middle of the storm without moving. That person becomes the eye of the storm, the point around which everything else turns. 1. When you stay calm, you change the atmosphere of the confrontation. This sounds abstract, but it's extremely real. In any group of people, the strongest emotion spreads to everyone. But the strongest emotion isn't anger. It is calm. Anger pushes people away. Calmness pulls them closer. When you keep your voice slow, low, and steady, the people around you, even if tense, begin adjusting themselves to your state. This is the human nervous system's mirror neuron effect. Humans unconsciously copy the state of the person they perceive as the most stable. A person who yells makes others defensive. A calm person makes others soften automatically. This is the moment when you seize emotional leadership of the room, without saying a single word about power. 2. Calmness makes you the psychological anchor. This becomes especially clear when multiple people are present, a team meeting, a debate, a family conflict, or even a street confrontation. When people notice you are not swept away by the collective emotional wave, they instantly see you as the anchor. And instinctively, they start giving more weight to your perspective, looking to you for direction, or simply glancing at you to figure out how they should react. In that moment, you are not just controlling yourself, you are controlling the emotional climate of the group. Machiavelli wrote that power is not something granted, it is something others unconsciously hand over to the one they perceive as the most stable. The person who stays calm in chaos automatically becomes that person. 3. Calmness creates the illusion of competence, even before you do anything. Calling it an illusion isn't to say it's fake, but to highlight the power of first impressions. When you remain calm, people assume you know what you are doing. You have information or a plan they don't know about. You are unafraid because you have a reason not to be afraid. This is a powerful psychological effect. Humans trust certainty, even without evidence. If you're calm, people judge you as more competent. If you lose your calm, people judge you as less competent, even though your real ability stays the same. Calmness becomes backlight. It makes everything you say afterwards sound weightier. 4. Calmness is not avoidance, it is control. Many people confuse calmness with endurance or submission. But the calmness we're talking about is not stepping back, it is standing firm. It is not reacting impulsively, but also not giving up. This is the state a leader uses to direct the moment, not avoid it. The difference is clear. The avoidant person stays silent out of fear. The calm person stays silent because it is strategic, not because they're overwhelmed. The silence of the fearful is weakness. The silence of the calm is a weapon. Calmness is not just a shield protecting you from chaos. It is a lever, a force that shifts you from defense to offense. In a noisy room, the silent person becomes the center. In an argument, the one who refuses to be driven by emotion becomes the anchor. And in any confrontation, the calm person becomes the one who defines who holds the power. This is the lever known only to those who understand the true nature of being untouchable. At number 5, consistent calmness creates an unshakable reputation. Being calm once is a skill. Being calm twice is progress. But being calm every time, that becomes a reputation. And that reputation changes the way people treat you forever. In life, people do not judge you by your best moment. They judge you by repetition, by the patterns of behavior they observe over time. Someone who loses their temper once, then twice, then 3 times, is quickly placed in the category of unstable. Someone who maintains composure across many different situations gradually receives a label, unshakable. And once that label is accepted by the people around you, colleagues, partners, family, everything changes. 1. Repeated stability becomes personal branding. Humans remember what is clear and consistent. If you stay calm in a meeting today, people think they handled themselves well today. If you stay calm in another conflict next week, they think they seem fairly stable. If you stay calm in a stressful situation next month, they start thinking, maybe calmness is simply who they are. And when you maintain that composure across different contexts, conflict, argument, crisis, criticism, what was once behavior becomes reputation. Reputation walks ahead of you. It speaks for you before you speak. It becomes an invisible armor that saves you from having to prove yourself again and again. 2. Once your reputation is established, people stop testing you. Everyone, consciously or unconsciously, tests how easily you can be thrown off balance. At work, they test you through deadlines, pressure, difficult questions. In the family, they test you through arguments and emotional intensity. In society, people test your reactions to see what type you are, easily provoked or difficult to budge. But when they see that you remain calm every time, they stop trying. They know pushing you won't make you explode, pressure won't make you unravel, provocation won't make you lose control. When the game stops working, people stop playing. And you enter a phase of life that is easier to navigate, easier to work in, with far less conflict. 3. A calm reputation makes you respected without raising your voice. Imagine 2 people, A, intelligent, talented, but easily angered and easily thrown off balance. B, not necessarily a genius, but always composed, never rushed, never out of control. Who do people respect more? Not A. People avoid A. But B, the one who doesn't lose composure, is seen as someone reliable, someone mature enough to lead, someone who can remain steady in decisive moments. That respect doesn't come from brilliant words. It comes from consistent energy. 4. The biggest danger, one loss of control, can destroy everything. This is a harsh but crucial truth. One explosion has more destructive power than 20 calm moments. Because humans remember the unusual much more than the usual. They remember the moment you lost control, like a bright scar in their memory. Therefore, building reputation is a long-term construction, but destroying it takes only a few seconds. No one is perfect, but those who understand the power of reputation protect it as if protecting valuable property. 5. Consistent calmness positions you as the one people rely on. When you are labeled the unshakable one, people begin to invite you into tense meetings, assign you to resolve conflict, place you in critical roles during crisis. You become the gatekeeper, the center of the storm, the anchor people want near them when things fall apart. This is the position of power many want, but few reach, not through technical skill, but through emotional stability. Calmness is not a temporary tool. It must become your internal operating system. Once your calmness becomes consistent, it becomes reputation. Reputation becomes power. And that power protects you even when you do nothing at all. When you are consistently unshakable, you don't just win confrontations. You make people never want to confront you in the first place. Number 6. Separate emotion from ego. The power of strategic detachment. In every confrontation, professional or personal, there is a defining moment where most people stumble. The moment they interpret an attack on their ideas as an attack on themselves. In a single heartbeat, a discussion turns into a battle to protect the ego. And when the ego steps in, strategy disappears. This is why Machiavelli emphasized, the wise act according to what must be done, not what they feel. When this is the essence of detachment, the strategic separation between you and your emotions. 1. Why are people so easily pulled into emotion when challenged? Because deep down, everyone wants to be validated. Every criticism feels like a direct blow to the fragile inner ego. The brain immediately activates its defend your honor reflex. Are they disrespecting me? Are they underestimating me? Are they trying to humiliate me? At that moment, you're no longer arguing to find a solution. You're arguing to defend your self-image. And that's when you lose, without realizing you've lost. Detachment is not emotional numbness. It is the distance required for your mind to function without emotional interference. 2. Detachment lets you view conflict as a chess match, not a wound. When you detach, the situation becomes as clear as a table surface. Who's trying to provoke whom? Who's trying to solve the issue? Who's reacting out of pressure? Who's simply trying to win? From there, you stop reacting instinctively. You choose your moves the way a chess player chooses each piece. Imagine 2 versions of you in a meeting. Version 1, ego triggered. You fire back immediately, voice tense, eyes sharp. Everyone notices your loss of composure. You lose power. Version 2, detached. You listen fully, then speak slowly. What makes you think this approach won't work? Help me understand. No defensiveness. No counterattack. You pull the opponent into your game. The second version always wins. 3. Detachment turns every attack into information. The emotionally reactive see criticism as an insult. The detached see criticism as data. When you process information instead of emotion, you analyze logically, ask the right questions, identify the real problem, de-escalate the room. You become the only person who sees clearly in a fog of emotion. And the one who sees the clearest always leads. 4. The one-beat pause strategy, a small weapon with massive impact. One hallmark of the unshakable person is that they don't react instantly. They pause, a single beat. This pause has 3 effects. It extinguishes your own emotional flare-up. Your brain has time to shift from instinct to logic. It makes the opponent hesitate. They don't get the reaction they expected. They lose momentum. It signals depth and deliberation. People instinctively respect someone who thinks, not someone who reacts. A tiny moment, yet extraordinarily powerful. 5. When you're detached, you cannot go and be emotionally manipulated. Anyone who wants to expose your weakness will try to provoke you, to make you angry, to make you lose your image, to force a mistake. This is a classic tactic in negotiation, debate, and even family conflict. But the detached person never bites the bait. They see the intention behind the words, and they refuse to give the opponent what they want, a reaction. When the fight moves from emotion to intellect, you take control. 6. The ultimate power of detachment. Detachment does not make you cold. It makes you selective. You choose when to respond, when to be silent, when to lead the exchange, when to let others expose their own weaknesses. And in every scenario, you remain the one who cannot be broken. Detachment is not escaping emotions. It is the skill of stepping back from emotions so they cannot control you. Once you master this, every confrontation slows down, becomes clearer, and becomes easier to navigate. You no longer lose, because emotion no longer has a grip on your throat. You become the one who chooses how the confrontation ends, not the one dragged into it. Number 7. Become the unshakable person. The transformation from tactic to identity. Reaching the final part of this journey, you've learned how to control the body, shape your presence, turn calmness into a lever of power, and use detachment like a sharpened blade cutting you free from emotional traps. But all of that is still just behavior, actions you perform in specific moments. To truly become an unshakable person, you need more than isolated tactics. You need to transform these actions into a consistent identity. Because here is the truth. People don't trust what you do once. People trust who you are. 1. When skill becomes instinct, at the beginning, staying calm is effort. You have to remind yourself to breathe deeply. Watch your posture. Control your voice. Pause for a beat before responding. That is the stage of conscious practice. But if you keep doing this, in small arguments, minor conflicts, daily frictions, your brain automatically learns. And at some point, you'll notice something remarkable. You no longer have to try. You step into tension, and your body holds steady on its own. Your voice is naturally grounded. Your gaze stays soft. You don't react impulsively because your brain is now programmed to pause before analyzing. Skill becomes instinct. Instinct becomes identity. 2. A solid identity changes how people see you. When people know you never lose control, the way they interact with you shifts. They will speak to you more carefully, carry more respect in their tone, avoid emotional manipulation, rarely try to provoke you, become calmer themselves in your presence. Your presence becomes a field of stability. And like any solid pillar, people naturally lean toward it. This is power in its purest form, power that doesn't need force, threats, or verbal dominance. It is the power of consistency. 3. When you become unshakable, you stop having to fight. Hot-headed people fight constantly. Sensitive people fight to protect their ego. Uncontrolled people fight to win temporary battles. But the unshakable rarely need to fight. Their reputation fights for them. Their presence dampens conflict before it begins. Their calmness makes escalation undesirable for everyone else. In many situations, the conflict dissolves before it even starts. This is the pinnacle of power, when you influence outcomes without having to exert force. 4. The unshaken identity is not emotional numbness, it is emotional maturity at its highest form. Many misunderstand the unshakable identity as coldness or emotional disconnection. But the truth is the opposite. The strongest individuals feel everything very clearly. They just never let those emotions control their actions. You still feel sadness, anger, disappointment, hurt. But you don't act while those emotions are boiling. You let them settle. You process them in private. You don't throw them into the battlefield. That is not numbness. That is emotional intelligence at full maturity. 5. The turning point. When you realize, I don't need to win the words. I just need to stand firm. This is the moment you step from technique into identity. When you no longer feel the need to prove anything. When you no longer feel the urge to respond with tension. When you see clearly that the one who stays calm is the one who shapes the outcome. The one who holds their mind is the one who holds the game. You do not lose because someone speaks louder. You do not win because your arguments are more elaborate. You win when nothing can move you. That is the true Machiavellian power. Control yourself before you control the situation. Unshakability is not a gift. It is a process. Training the body, training the mind, training strategic detachment, training repeated stability, and ultimately, forging an enduring reputation. You start with a skill. You continue with perseverance. And you end by becoming someone who cannot be moved. That is not a temporary victory. That is a lifetime victory. In every confrontation, people remember very little of what you say, but they remember vividly how you stood firm under pressure. Machiavelli pointed out that true power does not come from noise, nor from dominance, but from the ability to stay in control while others lose themselves. And if you've reached the end of this video, you've taken one more step into a realm few dare to enter, the realm of those who are not led by emotion, but who lead the emotions of the entire room. Remember this, you don't need to win with your voice. You win with your presence. You don't need to react instantly. You win in the moment you pause and see the truth clearly. You don't need to prove anything to the world. You only need to become the person who cannot be shaken. If today's lesson struck something within you, share it with those who need strength in their lives. And before you leave, remind yourself once more, as a Machiavellian vow, nothing moves me. Now step out and prove it.